December 5th, 1872, a ship was found drifting alone in the Atlantic Ocean. Its cargo was still there. Its food was untouched. The ship was still seaworthy, but everyone on board had vanished.
What happened to Mary Celeste's ship and how it disappeared? On December 5th, 1872, a ship was found drifting alone in the Atlantic Ocean. At first glance, nothing seemed impossible about it. Ships got lost, storms pushed them off course, sails tore, supplies ran low, and captains made mistakes. But this ship was different. Its cargo was still on board. Its food and personal belongings were mostly untouched. There were no obvious signs of violence, and perhaps most strangely of all, the ship was still seaworthy. Yet every person on board had vanished. Remains one of the most haunting mysteries in maritime history. A ship left floating in silence, a missing crew that was never found, and a question that has never truly been answered. Why would experienced sailors abandon a ship that might have saved their lives? To understand why the case became so famous, we have to go back to the beginning. Mary Celeste was a brigantine merchant ship. Before it became part of one of history's greatest mysteries, it had already lived a troubled life. The vessel was originally built in 1861 in Nova Scotia and was first named the Amazon. Even in its early years, it seemed followed by bad fortune. During its maiden voyage, its first captain became seriously ill and died not long after. In the years that followed, the ship suffered accidents, damage, and financial trouble. Eventually, it was sold, repaired, and renamed the Mary Celeste. By 1872, the ship came under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs, an experienced and respected sailor. Briggs was not reckless, inexperienced, or desperate. By most accounts, he was careful, capable, and deeply religious. He was known as a man of discipline and sound judgment. This matters because any explanation of what happened on board has to account for one difficult fact. The captain was not the kind of man expected to panic without reason. When the Mary Celeste set sail from New York City on November 7, 1872, it was bound for Genoa, Italy. Its cargo consisted of more than 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, a valuable but potentially dangerous shipment. On board were 10 people: Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members. This was not just a working voyage. It was, in a sense, a family journey. Briggs had chosen to bring his wife and young child aboard, something that suggests he believed the trip would be safe enough for them to accompany him. Nothing about the departure hinted at the disaster or mystery to come. For the next couple of weeks, the ship crossed the Atlantic. Conditions were likely difficult at times. The North Atlantic in late autumn could be unpredictable, with rough seas, heavy winds, and sudden weather changes. Still, nothing in the known record proves that the Mary Celeste suffered catastrophic damage. The ship's last log entry was dated November 25, 1872. It placed the vessel near the Azores. After that entry, the written trail ended. Then came 10 days of silence. On December 5th, another ship called the Dei Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste drifting at sea. The two ships had actually left New York within days of each other, though they were on separate voyages. When the crew of the Dei Gratia noticed the strange movement of the Mary Celeste, they became suspicious. The vessel was not responding normally. Its course was uncertain. Something felt wrong. A boarding party was sent over. What they found was deeply unsettling. The Mary Celeste had been abandoned. There was no captain, no crew, no sign of Captain Briggs's wife or young daughter, no bodies, no final note explaining what had happened. The ship itself was in a strange condition, not perfectly intact, but far from destroyed. Some sails were damaged. There was water in the hold, more than 3 feet of it, but not enough to sink a vessel of that kind. The cargo remained on board. Food and drinking water was still there. Most of the crew's personal possessions had not been taken. There were also no clear signs of a violent struggle. No bloodshed. No evidence of piracy. Nothing obvious to suggest a mutiny. If a crime had taken place, it had left behind almost no trace. But one important thing was missing: the ship's longboat. That single detail has shaped nearly every theory ever proposed. The most immediate conclusion was that the people on board had left the ship voluntarily, at least at first. They had not been removed by force in any clearly visible way. They had apparently entered the longboat and departed from the Mary Celeste. But that only deepened the mystery, because it raised an even more difficult question. Why would they do that? If the ship had been on the verge of sinking, the answer would seem obvious. But the Mary Celeste did not sink. It continued drifting. That means the people who left it may have abandoned a vessel that was still safer than a small open boat in the Atlantic. After the discovery, the Mary Celeste was sailed to Gibraltar, where British authorities began an investigation. Given the value of the cargo and the suspicious circumstances, officials looked carefully at the case. Salvage claims created financial motives. Rumors spread quickly. Speculation exploded almost immediately. At first, dark possibilities took hold. Some suspected mutiny. Maybe the crew had rebelled against Captain Briggs. Others suggested murder or piracy. After all, an abandoned ship in the open sea seemed like the perfect beginning for a violent tale. But the evidence did not support those theories very well. Nothing valuable had been clearly stolen. The cargo was still there. There were no obvious wounds, no signs of fighting, and no convincing proof that outsiders had boarded the vessel and attacked. Even so, the public was fascinated. And the fascination only grew in the years that followed. In 1884, Arthur Conan Doyle published a fictional story inspired by the case. His version dramatically altered the facts and turned the event into a more sensational legend. Doyle's story included invented names, imagined motives, and a revenge plot. It was fiction, but many readers absorbed its atmosphere more strongly than the actual evidence. Over time, the Mary Celeste became more than a maritime mystery. It became a cultural myth. That shift matters because it explains why so many wild theories later attached themselves to the case. Once a mystery enters popular culture, people stop asking only what is likely and begin asking what is possible. So what theories have been proposed? One of the more dramatic ideas was that pirates attacked the ship, killed or kidnapped those on board, and disappeared. But again, the lack of looting makes this unlikely. Pirates interested in profit would probably not leave a valuable cargo behind, nor would they usually erase nearly all evidence of violence. Another theory was mutiny. Perhaps the crew turned against Captain Briggs, seized the longboat, and abandoned or killed the others. But this also lacks strong evidence. There were no obvious signs of conflict, and the ship's condition did not strongly point to a rebellion. Some people even imagined bizarre explanations involving sea monsters, supernatural forces, or unexplained phenomena. These theories are part of what keeps the story alive, but they tell us more about human imagination than about what probably happened. A more grounded theory involves the ship's cargo: industrial alcohol. The Mary Celeste was carrying barrels of alcohol, and alcohol fumes can be dangerous. Some historians have suggested that leaking fumes may have built up in the hold, causing Captain Briggs to fear an explosion. In such a situation, he may have ordered everyone into the longboat temporarily, intending to stay close to the ship until the danger passed. This theory became more attractive because it helps explain a sudden but non-violent evacuation. No mutiny, no murder, no pirate raid. Just a captain making a cautious decision under frightening conditions. But there is another explanation that many consider even more plausible. When the Mary Celeste was examined, a sounding rod was reportedly found, suggesting the water level in the hold had been checked recently. One of the pumps was also found disassembled, possibly under repair. This detail is important. If the pump was not functioning properly, and if Briggs took a faulty-sounding measurement, he may have believed the ship was taking on dangerous amounts of water. In other words, the captain may have thought the Mary Celeste was sinking. If that happened, the decision to abandon ship becomes easier to understand. Not wise, perhaps, in hindsight, but understandable in the moment. A captain faced with what he believes is a failing vessel, a dangerous cargo, rough weather, and his own family on board might make a desperate choice. He might order everyone into the longboat temporarily, possibly tied to the ship by a line, while he judged the danger from a short distance. And if that is what happened, then the real tragedy may have come moments later. A storm surge, a strong wave, a snapped rope, a sudden gust of wind. Any of these could have separated the longboat from the Mary Celeste. Once detached, the longboat would have been terribly vulnerable. The Atlantic is vast, cold, and unforgiving. A small boat carrying 10 people would stand little chance against rough seas, darkness, bad weather, or lack of navigation. If they drifted away, they may have been lost within hours or days, leaving the larger ship to continue on alone. That possibility is one reason the Mary Celeste remains so haunting. The likely explanation is not necessarily dramatic. It may simply be tragic. No villain, no monster, no conspiracy. Just a mistaken judgment in the middle of the ocean, and a fatal chain of events that no one could reverse. And yet the mystery endures because certainty is impossible. The missing people were never found. No final testimony exists. No recovered longboat ever confirmed what happened. We are left with a nearly complete scene, but one crucial piece is gone forever. As for the Mary Celeste itself, its story did not end with the abandonment. The ship continued in service for years afterward, but even then it seemed unable to escape misfortune. In 1885, long after its most famous voyage, the ship was deliberately wrecked near Haiti as part of an insurance fraud scheme organized by a later captain, G.C. Parker. The plan failed, the fraud was exposed, and the vessel was damaged beyond recovery. So the ship that became famous for surviving without its crew eventually met a final end through deception and ruin. But that is not why people remember it. They remember the silent deck, the missing lifeboat, the untouched belongings, the child who vanished with her parents, the image of a ship still floating as if waiting for people who would never return. More than a century and a half later, the Mary Celeste still drifts through history as a symbol of unanswered questions. It reminds us that some mysteries do not survive because the truth is impossible in theory. They survive because one small missing piece can keep the whole story forever open. And perhaps that is why this case still unsettles people today. A ship was found. The evidence was there. The scene was real. And still, no one knows exactly what happened. It became famous because it didn't. It stayed behind, floating in plain sight, while the people on board vanished into the Atlantic and into one of history's most enduring mysteries.
The files you need are currently waiting for you to access. Every secret carries its own unique story behind it. Open another file and stay curious about what you find.